What's up, friends? My name is Joss and welcome back to Squibbles Reads. Today I'm going to be going through my December wrap-up. In December I read a total of 16 books, so I'm going to be splitting my December wrap-up into two parts. This one is going to be the one for Buddy Reads, and then I'm going to upload a different one that's going to be the books that I read by myself. Because let's face it, who really wants to see me talk for like 35 minutes about 16 books? Also, everyone that I mentioned in this video and the books that I read with them will be linked in the down bar below. The first buddy read that I did in December was Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon, and I read this with Nikki over at Random Little Reads. This book really plays into my goal of reading more diverse books. The author, Nicola Yoon, is African American and her husband is Korean. Her husband actually did all of the illustrations that are sparse throughout this book, which I think is just so cute. Everything Everything follows Madeline's life, and she is basically allergic to everything. So she has to be kept in a bubble at home. She has no interaction with anyone besides her mother and her one caretaker. One day a boy named Ollie moves in next door and they start talking over I Am. This book has been criticized for being really insta-lovey, but I honestly think that in this case, it's totally legit because she hasn't had any interaction with anyone. After talking to a boy that seems to appreciate her and actually want to listen to her, when she talks about her life and her struggles, I think it's only natural to form a connection with a person who is the first person that you've really talked to in this way. As I was reading this book, the first 80% of the book I was reading in bed, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was talking to my boyfriend, I was like, honey, this is gonna be my new favorite book. It's so amazing. Look at these cute little illustrations that her husband did. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. But then we came to the plot twist and he's like asleep next to me because it's like 3 in the morning and I'm like, yo, dude, I'm so mad. I used to be really angry about the plot twist, but the more that I thought about it, the more appreciative that I was about it. It takes a really good author for me to feel all of these things and for me to actually become really attached to all the characters for me to feel these things. So overall, I gave Everything 4 stars. The next buddy read that I did was Carry On by Rowell, and I read this with Jackie at J Book Lover. It is the fan fiction of Simon Snow, and he goes to Watford, which is a magical school that's similar to Hogwarts. Rowell described that spells are taught and their efficacy depends on how they're spoken, the enunciation and pronunciation with which they're spoken, and the vigor with which you speak them with, and also all the spells come from little cliches or sayings in the English language. It really shows how much Rowell loves words and appreciates everything that has to do with words. Fortunately, after about page 125, I really started getting into it. The action started picking up. Overall, I really loved it. I gave this one 4 stars as well, and I would really recommend it. And then I read Darkfever by Karen Marie Moning with April Sarah. Unfortunately, this was my first experience with an urban fantasy book, and I really did not enjoy this book very much. I kind of felt that Karen Marie Moning was expecting her readers to take all of this fantasy for gospel. And by that I mean some of the fae who are higher up in the hierarchy need power, and they obtain power through these items that they're trying to gather throughout the book. However, it just seemed kind of cold and mechanical to me. It didn't seem like there was any reason for them trying to gain the power. It didn't seem like they were emotionally invested to the power that they were going to have or trying to have. It just seemed like they needed power, and it was very hard to connect with the book in that respect for me. As well, I didn't really enjoy the male love interest, Jericho Barons. I know that a lot of people love him. He also seemed very cold and mechanical. The female protagonist, Mac, she has some skills that were helpful in Jericho's quest to obtain his goals. And every time Mac would do something with her keen senses or like her really astute observations, he would just kind of take everything and not really give anything back in return. And there was just no sense of gratitude or warmth or anything towards her. It was just very hard to read and really difficult to connect with him. Again, these are all my own opinions. I know that a lot of people love this book, but I just could not connect with it, and I gave this book 2 stars out of 5. Then I read The Sword of Summer, the first book in the Magnus Chase series by Riordan, and I read this with Christine Anderson. I actually really was so pleasantly surprised with this book. I haven't read any Riordan previously, and I know that some of the critiques of this book are that that they follow this very formulaic sequence of Rick Riordan books, but I really enjoyed this book for what it was. I really loved that the chapter titles were hilarious. Like, I laughed so hard at some of these chapter titles. I was like texting Christine. I was like, oh my gosh, did you see like chapter 15 or whatever? And we also both really appreciated how sassy Magnus was. Like, he was not afraid to dish it out. I also really loved the sense of mythology. I thought that it was paced and explained really well at good points throughout the book, and it really helped me understand it. One of my other favorite parts was that one of the female supporting characters is of a minority group that we don't see very often in books, and I won't tell you very much more about it because it will give it away, but I really, really loved that she was like a strong, heroic female. Overall, I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars as well, and I'll definitely be picking up the next one when it comes out. And next I read My True Love Gave to Me, which was edited by Stephanie Perkins. It's a collection of 12 short stories which all have a holiday or kind of Christmassy theme, and I read this with Ashley over a trip into a book. There are 12 stories, and if I explained every single one of them, this video would be like 80 minutes long, so I am going to go through very briefly my top 2 and my bottom 2. My very favorite story in this book was written by Kirsten White. It was absolutely so beautiful, and it totally astounded me how she could do that in such a short piece of fiction. She touched on things like having artistry and passion at work, bringing passion into work, what holidays and really being at home mean to an individual. It also really went into language and ethnicity, even domestic violence. It was just so beautiful, and I thought that her going into all of these things would be messy and it wouldn't be enough room for her in a piece of short fiction, but she did it, and it was absolutely gorgeous. My second favorite story was actually written by Stephanie Perkins, which was really surprising to me because I read Anna and the French Kiss, or at least almost got through it a couple months ago, and I was totally not impressed with it at all. However, this story was so refreshing, and I was so impressed with it. The main character is a female, and she's an Asian female, and this is one of the few Asian females that I've seen as a protagonist. It also touches on parents who suffer from mental illness, which is also another theme that I don't see very well fleshed out in books. Often, having a parent with mental illness is kind of seen as like a problem or not really a place of growth. But in this story, it was a place of growth for the protagonist. These 2 stories were definitely my top 2. Unfortunately, the bottom 2 stories, the first one is The Lady and the Fox. I think it was the second story in the book. I was honestly really confused throughout the whole thing, and I don't know if I just like wasn't paying attention. I mean, I really was trying to pay attention, but I was just really discombobulated trying to put the whole story together. I know that there were a lot of elements of magical realism, but I didn't really appreciate it very much, and I didn't really get a good sense of what the story was trying to say to me. My second least favorite story was Beer Bucket's Baby Jesus. It was very good girl and bad girl tropey, which can work in some cases, and there are definitely places for tropes. For example, when we're learning to write, when we're just starting a story. However, this was really not well explained or fleshed out. The bad boy had a backstory. However, she only took 1 paragraph to explain his backstory, and it was totally unbelievable. It was just like, oh, he just had a dysfunctional family, and it wasn't, I didn't believe it at all, and it made the story very hard and kind of superficial to read. Overall, I gave the whole collection 3 out of 5 stars. There were definitely some really big hits, but also some pretty big misses as well, so I kind of averaged it out to 3 out of 5. And my last buddy read of the month was Bone Gap by Laura Ruby. I read this with my good friend Brittany at Under the Radar Books, and I'm so happy that she read this one with me because she really introduced me to some themes in the book that I wasn't really looking for at the beginning. This book is a magical realism with also some elements of fantasy sparse throughout it. It's about a girl who goes missing. The story is told from the male protagonist's point of view mostly, as well as this girl who went missing. And it goes through the process of everyone's like grief and confusion of why she went missing, and she also gets to tell her side of the story with some more fantasy type storytelling elements. Brittany also introduced me to some of the more feminist themes in the book, and as a person who identifies as a feminist, I really appreciated that. So some of the themes that the book touches on is the importance of beauty, and also how females in a small town get very boxed in to the personality that the people around them set them in. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So that is it for this video. If you guys have any comments, questions, or anything else, please leave me a comment down below and give this video a thumbs up. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!